Welcome to the Just Third Way podcast, where we ask the question, would you rather own or be owned? Brought to you by the Center for Economic and Social Justice at cesj.org. Hello, thanks for tuning in. This is Dave Hamill, and today we bring you the second half of the Focus Show by Meshorn Daniels, where the featured guest was Dr. Norm Kurland. Again, the Focus Show is available at Blog Talk Radio/Focus Show. So here is part 2 of the episode.
With America's infrastructure crumbling, urban cities deteriorating, high crime rate, the infant mortality rate among African Americans, and with the incarceration rate, how can we, as descendants of American slaves, build communities, not neighborhoods? I want to put emphasis on that. There's a difference between neighborhoods and communities.
Correct.
How can we build communities? When I say community, I'm talking about business districts and ownership and looking out for the citizens that own the homes and where they can accumulate generational wealth. You know, as you mentioned about the 1%, it makes no sense to me that two people have more wealth than 52 million African Americans here in America.
Right.
That makes no sense to me. But to get back to the question, how can we build generational wealth and literally revolutionize? I'm not. When I say revolutionize, I'm not talking about, violence and war and overthrowing the government. It is a revolution that has to be taking place, and the revolution that has to be taking place within the economic issues that we are facing by putting into place concepts and ideas and systems. So, can you just give us a brief, example? Is that at all possible? I mean, you can go into what you guys came together here in East St. Louis and did. My question, and my main question is, can we still do that? Is it at all possible?
Of course. What we try to do in East St. Louis, and would have achieved it if Yvette Young, the lady who was the representative in the state, had not died. But in any event, we were able to get from the state legislature, we had the governor was ready to back it. We got the House of Representatives to adopt the legislation. I'll describe it by unanimously. It's incredible. Both the Republicans and Democrats supported it, and it went to who should own the land. Should it be owned by a tool called the state or the city, the politicians, or should it be owned by all the citizens? So in East St. Louis, in 15 surrounding communities, we got this legislation through one of the houses unanimously. And we had to build a new city that they were going to call Old Man River City to replace what East St. Louis and these communities. And the idea would be is that the city and the state would transfer the ownership to what was called a citizens' land development co-op. And every child, every woman, every man who had a permanent residence there, or those who would come in as you rebuilt the city, and a very advanced design for a new city by Buckminster Fuller, that each of them, they would own the land so that any leasing to new companies coming in, the lease incomes would become a source of income to everyone, as well as new jobs. And they had advanced energy systems built right in. NASA had brought their team from the Cleveland area, from Ohio, to come in that would change the brownfields into fields that they would take the brownfields and turn it into methanol, and then convert that into into advanced power technologies so they can produce water, you can produce heat, and you can produce methanol for feeding in for as fuel for the new industries that came in. But in any event, that legislation is available in a city like St. Louis, a city like Dallas, a city like Atlanta, San Francisco. We were there in Detroit when we met with one of the leaders in the District 3 at Detroit, who was very open to these ideas. They're studying it, but it would make every citizen, if you wanted to build a new Detroit, you could take a portion of the city or you can take the whole city. We were trying to do this, as a matter of fact, Bucky Fuller and Kelso we brought them in back in 1968 after Martin Luther King was assassinated, and you had the riots. But we had leaders there. A woman, Ennis Francis, one of the great leaders that I met in my life, an ex-Garvey supporter. But when she heard these ideas, that became. She even testified for the employee stock ownership plans before the Congress, and unfortunately, she died in 1980, and she ran for vice president of the United States in the New Hampshire primaries. She was tremendous. Yeah. But in any event, leaders are what's needed. This is what DASI has to do, is find those leaders.
Yeah.
And then they can change it. You change the tax system. For example, you'd pay no taxes under the tax system we would have. Is not what Marx suggested with the graduated and progressive income tax. It'd be a flat tax.
Yeah.
But it would eliminate any tax. Let's say we were figuring out a family of 4 would not pay a penny so that they can meet their own needs until they had 100,000, and then every dollar would be at the same rate as Bill Gates would have on his dollars, his profit dollars. You see, in that way you can eliminate deficits. You can still meet the needs of welfare. You can still keep your promises under Social Security, but there will be a source of keeping those promises until gradually, as people were able to get their own independent incomes, they wouldn't need Social Security. They'd get more than Social Security or welfare.
Exactly. All right. I'm going to move on to my last question. We got about 10 minutes before we close out. And, most citizens of America and descendants of slaves are not aware and don't know that in America there is what you call a constitutional government and a shadow government, or lack of a better word, a monetary system. My question is, doing something on the monetary side, we as DASI and people, and you were talking earlier, got into it about earlier, and what that monetary system is called and that shadow government is called is the Federal Reserve Bank. Many people, I was telling a young guy yesterday that he said, I thought the Federal Reserve Bank was owned by the government. Well, no. But explain to us the Federal Reserve's purpose and why the Federal Reserve, and why would they and should take a look at not capital ownership. What benefit to the Federal Reserve Bank, because America has a $20 trillion deficit.
Right.
And with the $20 million, go ahead.
Okay, where you're going to find, you don't even have to change the law. Okay, if you go to Section 13, Paragraph 2 of the Federal Reserve Act, it says that the Federal Reserve Bank, and they're talking about, let's say, the Chicago Fed or the St. Louis Fed, any Federal Reserve Bank may discount bills of exchange. Well, what a bill of exchange is when you go into the bank and you're going to ask for a loan, and you're going to say, here's what I want to buy, and here's why it's going to pay for itself. In other words, you got to have that. And you have to have insurance. You have to have capital credit insurance, because you don't have what they demand is collateral. But anyway, they can discount bills of exchange. This can be interest-free credit through the member banks. That is your local banks, your commercial banks, and it's for issued or drawn for agricultural, industrial, or commercial purposes. You see, so the power is there. They're not using it. You see, that's
when
the
you
problem.
Say they're not using it.
They're not using the power that they have. And so you begin, if you get 1 million people in Washington, first starting at the Lincoln Memorial, but right next door is the Federal Reserve, right across the street. You'll see how quickly it changes, and you'll see how the White House, they're going to have to do something. And the same thing to Congress. See, you want to go beyond all the other parties. Even you might form what we suggest is a Unite America party, only for the purpose of providing universal rights, and treat government for what it is. It is not people. It's a tool. And it's the only one that's a legitimate monopoly. All other monopolies you should be against. And the one thing, if you read the preamble of the Constitution, it says, we the people, in order to form a more perfect union, the next two words tell you what it's supposed to be doing. Establish justice.
Justice.
Okay?
Sure.
So if you understand what social justice is, and you understand the principles of economic justice, and I say they were basically Kelso and Mortimer Adler in their first book, which is available free on our website. Their two books and our books are all there, available free, downloading. So you get it right. Yeah. And all we should do is encourage people, just look at the home page to get the picture. So if they spend 10 minutes or 5 minutes on the home page, they will get the picture, and then it tells them where they should go for learning more and more and more. But in any event, I think the important thing, if DASI makes this their tool, that is that website, and I'm not saying it's perfect, but I don't know any other one that is going to be talking about the just third way.
Yeah, it's very powerful. The listening audience, some very informative information on there. But Dr. Kurland, I want to thank you for. I'll let Meshorn come back in, but just short. When you say that they're not utilizing the powers that they have to change the lending and credit practices, can you just very short, because we're running out of time, why aren't they using the power? Is it because the people power are not putting pressure on them? Because when the chairman of the board,
you're letting Wall Street control the economy.
Yeah, the Federal Reserve people, if you don't know, they control whether there is inflation or deflation.
That's right.
They control it. And are you saying that if the people power, because when the Fed chairman, everybody listens in Washington. Nobody steps on the Fed chairman of the Federal Reserve Bank. Everybody listens.
Right. So and yet it doesn't, as I say, it has a power. The people can demand that they use the power, and the people can say, under the Capital Homestead Act, each of the regional feds would be owned by the people in the region. You see, so you don't have to worry about Wall Street. Let them continue to gamble. Okay? You don't need them. You issue new shares. You set up a system where companies want to issue new shares because they won't have to pay any corporate taxes if they do it the right way. You see?
So, Dr. Kurland. Yes, Dr. Kurland. I want to thank Gene for putting those 5 questions together, and I want to thank you for giving us we recorded this. We wanted you on here for reasons. We wanted to be able to go back and listen and get a very understanding of what you were saying. I'm going to ask you a specific question because it's very important to me, because very specific question concerning something that I think you and I have said before, and I want to hear how you articulate it now that I'm going to ask you in a very clear, open form. I need for you to explain to people, those who are listening, the demographics of people who was not incorporated in the original corporation of this country, okay, why it is so important that we understand the laws concerning money, the definition of money, and why is it important that we culturally need to infuse a new system that includes us being involved with justice, because we didn't get justice in the beginning.
That's right.
So I want you to explain to people, because it's very important, okay, that people understand that you're here to try to help us to understand that you're trying to get us to give leadership to a system to replace the system that never included us, okay?
Right.
But we now infuse a system that we're giving leadership to that can be justice, not just for us, but for all Americans. Will you please explain that? Put it in the way if you are talking to children who don't understand all the language that you understand. Put it to them and explain it to them why you're saying this is our time to take the system back and infuse us into the system, and we're the leaders.
Look, children understand ownership. All you have to do is see 2 kids together, and one kid takes a toy, and the other says, what does he say? It's mine.
That's mine.
That's what ownership is all about. You have to own, and you want to be an owner. You don't want to take it away from anyone else. You don't want to steal it, but you want to make it possible that both kids can have the tools or the toys that they want or whatever it is, and as they go through life, have the income so that they can go to their own university. You want to have a future so that professors at the finest universities will teach for $1 a year. The only way they can do that is to have an independent source of income. Teachers, they need to become owners. They're asking for pensions, but the taxpayers can't pay for it. The same thing goes now. You could see in Ohio, the unions are getting together because the companies that they work for aren't providing pensions. You don't need the pensions are going to go into prices. It just means that we're less competitive in the world market if we continue to increase costs. So the ideas are not that difficult. People understand ownership. They'd rather own than be owned, and that's why that slogan is precisely the message. Simple way for DASI to teach the world and get many DASI people to begin being the professors and the teachers. All they have to do is examine these things and make the ideas theirs. Now, I studied law and economics at one of the finest law schools, okay? They teach you the law, but they don't teach justice in the law schools. Just think about that. These are the guys who write the laws, and they don't. If you don't understand justice, then you can't bring justice to the world. And therefore, DASI should be the carriers of justice, economic justice, social justice, they're not negative terms. They are, most people don't even understand the definition. Somebody told me yesterday, never use social justice. And I said, you don't understand. The Catholic writings on social justice tell you that what you do when you see a way to change a system is to organize peacefully. Dr. King, they call it personalism. You see, not individualism, personalism, because then every person is important, even those you don't see. And this is what DASI has to do because nobody else is doing it. Not me, not the Center for Economic and Social Justice. What's needed is the people power, fired up people power. So that all I can do is bring ideas that came to my attention. As I say, they're not all mine. I've added a few wrinkles. But the important thing is I have yet to find anybody tell me what's wrong with it. And that's the way DASI has to approach it. And if they can't answer it, then we get together and figure out an answer that you may not have been able to provide.
So I believe that Gene is committed to meeting with you and surrounding ourselves with a DASI team of individuals to actually engage and learn more about how we can apply these tools and this education and this knowledge that we can be the leaders of making that happen.
Exactly.
I think it's very important that we have to speak. This was one of the things that we was very clear about. We understand our people, and one of the things I love about Queen, she understands the devastation that we have gone through by the brainwashing, by the European culture, by infusing their ideology on us. This way, to me, this allows us to grab something that not even the European culture is willing to adopt, but we can collectively, by our numbers and by our will, we can make them, like playing a game of bid with, we can make them have to embrace this by how we create it and make it work for ourselves. Am I on point with this, what I'm saying? It's how we use this information to make it work that we can actually change the current system by how we utilize it for ourselves. Am I right, Dr. Kurland?
That's right. Yeah, you said everything now, but it's not just the Europeans. You see, America had some good values in the beginning. It was revolutionary in many respects. They understood that if you didn't own, you're going to be powerless. They wouldn't even give the vote to people who didn't have property. They understood that. You see, and I've been talking to people in Africa, in Nigeria, for example, which is the largest country in Africa. And this guy called, and I said, what you need is to do this, but then it's so divided there that there are radicals who are killing Christians, because they're Christian or Catholic, and that's but this, I said, form a Unite Nigeria movement, you see, but they're killing people who are associated with him. They're going into villages, killing people, and it's on a religious basis. That's not right, And I don't blame Islam. I blame Islam radicals who hate the European models. You see?
Right. Yeah.
And they strap bombs around themselves. Well, how can they kill innocent people?
As we're closing out, I want to see if a couple of other people who's listening to the show and everything, Queen, Leonard, do y'all want to chime in there and make any questions or any what you received from this? You want to make any comments? Queen? Leonard?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I had my phone on mute. Yes, I would like to just thank Dr. Kurland for, taking our time out of his schedule to join us and inform us on so much material. And I would like to invoke, if I may, that at some point in time that we will have Dr. Kurland back, because what I want to make clear is that as he has as stated that he really wants DASI to take this information and run with it, I want you to know that DASI is an entity that is willing to take the CEJ's model and actually bring it into fruition. And there are just so many things and so many loopholes that we may not be aware of. So we would like to bring you aboard as an advisor. At least that's my vote. As an advisor to DASI, because I think what would be a great honor to you, Dr. Kurland, and of course on behalf of DASI, I would say that we would honor you by allowing this lifetime of work and the dedication that you've put into this. I would like for you in your lifetime to see actually all that you've taught and all that you've done be brought into fruition. I think that would be a gift to you, and that certainly would be a gift to us. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Queen. I believe me, this is one of the most important hour that I've spent in my life. I'm really looking forward to DASI taking this as not Norman Kurland's ideas, but DASI's ideas.
Yes, sir. Will do.
Well, and I am thanking God for the people that has come on board, that is starting to understand this. And I think, Leonard, you want to speak to this? Because, Leonard and I have always saw and knew that there was something unique about what you were saying. But, timing is everything. We understood that our demographics of people are like children. They can't handle, the meat and potatoes sometimes. You got to give it to them at certain times. But so you need certain people to bring it that can articulate it and bring it to them in the manner that needs to come. And I just want to thank you. And I think we got a guest or someone who actually wants to make a comment. Is this William? Russell William?
This is Equad Neef. I'm calling from South Carolina.
Who is this?
My name is Equad Neef.
Oh, okay. Have you been listening to the broadcast?
No, sir. I did. I called in earlier, but I think when the guy was speaking, but I guess I was just drawn here from the title of the show, definitely to engage.
Okay. Well, we had a special guest on speaking about the reason why the descendants of American slaves is so important to give new leadership about a new movement about economics, and Dr. Kurland spoke on that. But you can go back and listen to the show. I'm going to put you back on mute here. Leonard,
can I make one other suggestion that I think would be valuable?
Go ahead.
There's Brian Stevenson heads up the Equal Justice Initiative in Montgomery. He should be approached by DASI to become one of the. He has to hear of this. He's brilliant. He's a lawyer. He deals with trying to straighten out the criminalization process. So I think you ought to approach him. He's very articulate. He teaches law in one of the top law schools in New York City. He goes from Montgomery there. But I really think he's on the TED show. You can listen to him talk on the TED show. He is the kind of person who could become a president of the United States. He should become. He's the kind of person.
Hey, Gene Gordon, you make that part of your strike because Dr. Kurland mentioned that to me before. I don't know if you know that gentleman. I've actually researched and listened to him. Make sure you talk to Dr. Kurland about that information and let him send you some information on him. That could be something that part of your team you seek after to get him to take a look at what we're doing there, Gene. What you think?
Yes, sir. I definitely got his name written down. We'll follow up on it. I just want to say to Dr. Kurland and the listening audience and what Dr. Kurland said earlier, that it's going to take leaders.
Right.
It's going to take leaders with the dream and with the mission to make all this possible. You know, IBMs became IBMs because they gotten to a point where we've gotten to. General Motors became General Motors because they gotten to a point where we've gotten to, and then don't make the fatal mistake of thinking we've arrived. DASI, I have no doubt about it. DASI is going to be fantastic. We're going to do some great things here in America, but we'll never get to the point where we have arrived. So we're going to need leaders. Right. We're going to need leaders. So I say this to the listening audience, wherever your skills, your talents, come on and get on the ground floor with DASI, and let's go out there and make some things happen. And Dr. Kurland, we've got to have you back, and we can go more into the complexity of, you know, and understanding, because DASI's motto is to unlearn to relearn. And that's what we're doing. We've got to be relearned. We know nothing about GDP, the gross domestic product, and that's the engine that moves America. We have to know about these things, get educated about these things, because we missed the memo. As descendants of American slaves, as you just said, and something that really, really stuck out to me, that you went to the finest law school, and they did not teach you, or they didn't teach on justice. Well, how can you have a law that is not based on justice? That just don't make sense to me. And even in accounting schools, accountants, they're not even taught on how the money system and how money works in America. They're not taught that. So I just wanted to throw that out there, you know, to the listening audience. Come on and be a part and get on the ground floor of one of the greatest things that would ever happen in American business today.
Hey, Leonard, and that's your chime. There you go. You get to talk about what's coming.
Yeah, I'll tell you another person you want to go after is the senator from South Carolina, Tim Scott, because he's the only senator I've ever heard of who not only comes from a very poor background, but he is a member of both the Senate Banking Committee and the Senate Tax Committee, or they call it the Finance Committee.
Did you get his name there?
I think he would be a good person for DASI, and invite him to become a member of DASI.
Gene, did you get that name?
Tim Scott? You saying Tim Scott?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
He came from a very poor background, and he's just terrific.
Hey, Leonard,
very
go ahead
articulate.
and close. Hey, Dr. Kurland, I want to thank you. I appreciate you. It's been a long time coming, Dr. Kurland. I want to thank you for being patient. I know you and I had some knockdown throwouts and heartfelt discussions and everything, but that's what fathers and sons do, right? That's what we do, right?
We're both military guys, right?
Military guys, you're right, exactly.
We have to understand strategy.
We have to understand strategy. That's right. I appreciate you. I appreciate you being patient with me and hanging in there. And I think it's going to pay off. I'm claiming it. It's going to pay off.
It is paying off.
It's going to pay off. It's going to pay off. Leonard, go ahead and close us out and tell people what's coming. Very precise, not too much, because I want to be what Queen said. We don't want to expose ourselves like we ready. We ain't that ready, but we do want to let people know what's coming. Okay, go ahead, Leonard.
Okay, this show was about our economic strategy. Part of it, like I said, is first I want to say, Dr. Kurland, I just want you to know we didn't forget about you. That's why you're here. You know, we always had you. I always had you in the back of my mind. We got the right person in place to be able to push forward your ideologies. Something is going to benefit our community. Just like I was talking the other day, is what we lack in the community is capital. We have lots of people with dreams as far as, you know, business ownership and entrepreneurship, but not the capital to make those dreams and visions come to fruition. This is a way to make that happen, to where when people are talking about, hey, you know, unemployment rates and all this, say, wait a minute, I want to start a barbershop, I want to start a bakery, I want to start a daycare, I want to start this. Now you have the money to do so if we go ahead and implement these strategies. This is good for our community. So this is one of the things that DASI is working on. We're also working on some other things within our business structure. What we want to do is we want to employ our people, to employ people, period, Americans, all right? But we want to employ our people because we're suffering, all right, and we're hurting. This is part of changing our community and changing our environment around in our culture, in our community, economics. We also want to change our political. We also want to change our political attitudes. As Queen was talking, I don't know if she mentioned this or not, but we mentioned it within our meeting. We want to go forward and create a voting block, all right? Come up with an entirely new strategy. The places we live, you know, 30, 40, 50%. You got some places like Jackson, Mississippi, where we like 71%, all right, you know, population. But those places where we're not above 50%, there is a way for us to get the things that we need politically, all right? You build an economy and you protect it with politics and policy, all right? We have to get policy-minded instead of executive-minded. The mayors and governors and presidents, that's all good, but those senators, city councilmen, aldermen, these type judges, these type of people that create policies are what we need to kind of focus on and get ourselves educated. And that's some of the things that we're going to have to, that we're going forward into the future as far as educating communities about the political process. So that's one of the things we're doing.
Speak to the legislation of removing color, please.
Yes. Understand. We also have on the books. We've got legislation in place removing color from all government documents. Why is that important? I had somebody, I was arguing, I guess, debating with somebody. I wasn't really arguing. I posed the question. I said, if I was born in the United States and I'm a United States citizen, being born in the United States automatically qualifies me as a United States citizen, all right, protected under the U.S. Constitution, all right? Why does my government need to subcategorize me after that? If I am a U.S. citizen protected by the U.S. Constitution, that's where my power and sovereignty lies, right there. I don't need no subcategorization by any forms of government. So that's what we want to try to do. That's why we want to remove color. It simplifies the process, and it speaks to racial inequality. If we're all looked upon as U.S. citizens protected by the Constitution, all right, and we all have constitutional rights. We got civil rights, constitutional rights. We're working on human rights, okay? These sorts of things. Now everybody is the same. Now we're talking about something where everyone draw upon commonality. I am a United States citizen, okay? I am protected by the U.S. Constitution. End of story. So that's what this legislation is trying to do, is we're trying to work on getting first Kentucky and then the whole nation on board with this ideology. Right now, you can't go and fill out a job application. They ask you what race you are, how old you are. These are things that the private sector can't do. All right, there's only certain information you can give because They want everybody. What are your qualifications? How much experience have you had? Okay. So it should be the same thing within the government. I don't need to be, we don't need to be subcategorized, all right, if we're U.S. citizens. So we've got that going on. Like I said, we want to build membership. We want to build membership, and we want people to understand our language and why it is important that we are descendants of American slaves, okay? Why that's important through education process. And like I said, if you're interested, we got we're getting ready to have some membership come up, okay? We've got a website. We're not so much a website, but we've got a Facebook page. Our Facebook page is the DAS Network, all right, on Facebook, or you can join Descendants of American Slaves Advocacy, all right, that's one. I think if anybody's online,
and we have a new group called Uniquely American.
Uniquely American, yes, that's another.
Yes, and that's not a page. That's a Facebook working group.
A working group, yes. Uniquely American. Uniquely American is one of the things that we are also promoting, because within DASI, our story is, as it relates to America, is unique. We are not like anybody else in America. Okay, our story is unique, and it needs to be told. And it not only needs to be told, we need to embrace this story. Okay, the story of slavery, the story of where our ancestors, one of our main motto is remembering those America has forgotten. Okay. Well, if first place we need to start when we're talking about remembering our ancestors is with us. We have to remember our ancestors before we demand America remember them. So Uniquely American speaks to that. Okay, it speaks to that relationship we have that's unlike anybody else's relationship in the United States of America. So these are the things that, we got on the horizon. We got a lot more. Like I said, we're growing. We've got some new people that are just godsend. This is a good thing, okay? This is a great thing. So everybody, just look forward to seeing some new, just seeing some progress, okay? One of the things we believe in is we either win or we either learn lessons. There is no failure. But with that, we close it out.
All right, then. Well, I want to thank each and every one of you all for being on the show. I want to thank Dr. Kurland for being here. We are definitely within time. I intentionally made sure that we had a little extra more time so we can have this discussion and this dialogue. And I'm going to just ask the lady of the house, okay, the nurturing of the house, okay, to give her last the closing words of this. I appreciate you so much, Queen. Okay, it's so important to have your voice to be heard about the encouraging the men, the mothers, and coming on board. So close us out, and this last little bit, but everybody can hear you're telling them and explaining to them the importance of bringing the men to this movement and the women supporting them.
Yes. One of the aims and goals of DASI is also restructuring what I call the God-given order, with our men being first and our women being not second, but our women being the helpmeet or the support mechanism, and that we are building families and bringing families together, sons and daughters and fathers and mothers, so that we can turn around the atrocity in our communities, where it's now at 79% of all descendants of American slave homes are being headed by women. We're going to turn that around. So I just want to say to the men of DASI, which is everybody that's on this line, is that I want you to encourage and inspire other men, not only to join DASI, but to take a personal position in their lives to be that man, that head, and not to dominate or control, but inspire and restore women back to our respective places. I think that's a God-given order. I think that is something that is very important. I think our men have been disenfranchised in more ways than I can describe, and it is time for DASI to get on the front line, not only in business, but also in family and daily life. And thank you again.
All right, then. Well, that is a wrap. I hope this is going to be a show that we're going to send out as an educational, informal information. And Dr. Kurland, we're going to include you on part of our advisory board moving forward because I'm going to say, you're going to hear me say it. I never heard me say this before, but we're going to take over that Center of Economic Social Justice, and we're going to make it ours, okay? It's going to be
wonderful.
ours. It's going to be ours, okay? And you're going to be proud about it. And you're going to be proud about it. Am I right, Gene?
I like it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, all right, then. Well, y'all have a good one now. I love y'all. And that's a wrap. Y'all have a good one now. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye now.
Thanks again for joining us on the Just Third Way podcast. That was the second half of an episode of the Focus Show hosted by Meshorn Daniels, which is available at blogtalkradio.com/Focus Show. You can contact Meshorn on Facebook at facebook.com/Meshorn.Daniels. That's MESHORN.Daniels. Especially if you want to join DASI, which is Descendants of American Slaves, Inc. And you can join CESJ by going to cesj.org, select Participate, then become a member. Thanks again. Have a good week and own or be owned.